And welcome everyone to the last Boardroom Bites at 9 for 2020. Our topic for this morning is enabler or victim, KPMG and state capture. And today we've got a speaker who needs really no introduction, Prof. Wiseman Nkuhlu. He's the current chair of KPMG South Africa. He's holds a number of board and trustee positions. So Prof, I will hand over to you now for our presentation, and I will see everyone again during the Q&A session. Enjoy.
Thank you. Good morning to all the participants. It's really an honor and a privilege for me to have the opportunity to introduce my book, Enabler or Victim, KPMG South Africa's and state capture. Really, I've had a long association with the IOD. It's always a pleasure to come back and be in the company of leaders who are committed to improving corporate governance in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, I start off with a brief introduction explaining why I decided to write the book. To me, the erosion of public trust in the audit profession has been a matter of concern for many years, because I'm a chartered accountant of over 40 years standing. In addition to that, I've served in a number of company boards. This erosion has been a matter of concern to me for some time, and therefore I decided that I should also make a humble contribution in actually trying to explain the matters behind the erosion of trust and see whether I can make a positive contribution in terms of how the challenges can be addressed. In addition, I realized that the KPMG crisis was a matter of great public interest, and therefore I felt it my duty to actually share my experiences at KPMG with a bigger public. Thirdly, I also of the view that at KPMG, we have learned very important lessons during the last 2.5 years that I believe that are of relevance to many of my colleagues who are in business or who are professionals. And therefore, I felt that the lessons that we have learned should be shared much more broadly. The presentation is divided into a number of themes, a number of key themes. The key themes are the following. I'll show them on the screen. I first deal with the issue of drivers of human behavior and influence on development, in particular on the accounting and auditing profession. And then understanding the nature of the crisis at KPMG. I deal with that in about 4 chapters in the book. And then I try to crystallize the root causes as I came to understand them. So, and then having defined the root causes, then I share what I regard as building blocks for the renewal of KPMG. Then there are recommendations. I end up with recommendations regarding urgent reforms to the profession. And finally, lessons for professionals and business leaders. Now, a few remarks on the issue of drivers of behaviors. In thinking about this, I struggled quite a lot to find an answer to the question of why KPMG, a firm with such a long history of success, failed to appreciate that continued association with the Guptas had become a high risk to the firm. And also regarding the work that KPMG did for SARS, I struggled with understanding why KPMG again failed to appreciate that accepting appointment by the new SARS commissioner to conduct an investigation into the conduct of executives who were behind the success of KPMG over of SARS for many years. Why did KPMG fail to appreciate that it would result into huge, severe damage to its own reputation? So in grappling with this, I said, possibly I need to understand better the drivers of our behavior as human beings. So I went back to what I call the beginning. I looked at Francis Fukuyama and other authorities on this matter, and zeroed in on two desires. One, desires that drive maximization of self-interest, and desires that are driven by our aspiration as people for our dignity to be recognized. So I said there's contestation between the two. And of course, as we all know, the desires for self-interest have further been galvanized and really made powerful by a number of ideas that are behind the dominant economic system, capitalism. We all are familiar with Adam Smith's assertion that the selfish human urge to increase private profits is the basis of collective wealth. We're also quite aware of how growth in revenue and profits have become the important measures of success, and how growth of the economy has become the most important measure of economic success. These drivers, together with the power of consumerism that really became much stronger after the Industrial Revolution, are very powerful influences on how we behave as leaders. And of course, they have had an impact on how the audit firms really, the desires that drive the audit firms. So I started there and came to the conclusion in looking at these forces of this force. I came to the conclusion that in my judgment, auditors should be much stronger and able to tame the power of self-interest and maximization of material gains, because to me, there can be nothing more satisfying to a profession than being recognized as the protector of the public against possible abuse of power by chief executives, by directors of companies and so on, to be a young professional and to have this duty in society. To me, that should be a source of great pride and recognition that really should enable you to overcome the temptations to be led by just your maximization of interest. So when you are faced with a difficult situation, this pride in being recognized as a professional who is above the question of being being led by just self-interest will be very strong. So I said, I'm disappointed that I find it strange that auditors over time now are seen to be primarily driven by revenue growth, and also by the aspiration to win and retain as many tier one clients as possible. In other words, their pride and pride and drive for recognition is no longer for recognition as protectors of the public. In other words, is no longer anchored on the desire for serving the public interest. Is really anchored on the desire to be recognized by clients as the firm that offers the most modern and exciting solutions to whatever challenges a business is faced with. So this change of what really drives, motivates auditors from being as expected by the public, they should be driven by the pride of protecting the public through enhancing trust in audited financial statements, but now it has become the delighting of clients and growth in revenue. So for me, I believe that this is what is really behind what we find now, the disconnect between the understanding of the role of auditors by the public and how auditors have come to define their own primary purpose. So I struggled with this, and then to me, this led me in my thinking about what really happened at KPMG. Now, the second part of the theme that I address is understanding the nature of the crisis. In understanding the nature of the crisis, I of course started off by engaging a number of internal and external auditors, talking to KPMG partners about their understanding of what really happened, and also talking to a number of opinion makers, including leaders of business, PLSA in particular, the regulators, trying to understand to them how they understand the KPMG situation. But of course, by the time that I got involved in KPMG, that is in March 2018, KPMG International had already intervened and conducted an investigation that led to a report in September 2017. In that report, KPMG International confirmed that there were really shortcomings in the audits that were conducted for the Guptas, and also that there were serious mistakes in the way that KPMG went about accepting and conducting the investigation on SARS. Now, of course, KPMG International advised the KPMG board to take some drastic steps, removed 9 executives, top executives, as well as constitute a new board. But of course, these steps were judged to be inadequate by the public. The public felt that KPMG had not been transparent. In other words, has not explained adequately what really happened. And also, the public felt that KPMG's actions on only withdrawing the findings and conclusions section of the SARS investigation report were inadequate. And of course, there were serious demands by a number of clients that KPMG had taken, just removing the old leadership and appointing one of the executives and a new leadership team from inside KPMG was not enough. It was not enough to really address the erosion of public trust in the firm. The firm had to do more. Then they were then advised to recruit someone from outside to become chairman of the board. That's how I came in March 2018. On arriving there, of course, I realized that the steps that had been taken by KPMG had been judged to be inadequate. And inside the firm, there was concern about the fact that they had taken these drastic steps, but still public trust in the firm had not been restored. So on coming in then, my view was that we should revisit some of the decisions already taken and also see what additional leadership changes to introduce. It is against that background then that one of my first steps, I said, it's clear to me that the removal of only the withdrawal of only the conclusions sections of the SARS investigation report was inadequate. Let's revisit that. And I came up with the suggestion that we withdraw the full report, but that of course was not accepted by the board. And the reasons to me were partly as a result of the fact that in October 2017, after removing the old leadership, KPMG had appointed a new board, and this new board had actually done its own strategy formulation and has already agreed on a plan that was on a renewal plan. So my coming in, I was only expected to actually implement that plan. But my understanding was different. My understanding was that what was public was that I was there to lead the firm out of the crisis, and therefore I should have authority to review some of the decisions already taken. So this is an important lesson for business, in my view, not only accounting firms. The steps taken in October 2017, in my view, were inadequate in the sense that the firm should actually, at that stage, appointed a leader from outside to oversee the renewal of the firm, and also be involved in selecting the leadership that was going to take the firm forward. But now I come at a later stage, the leadership has been decided, the strategy has been decided, and now when I come in, I'm seen as interfering, or undermining a strategy that has been taken. So that created a difficult situation for me. And I believe that it deepened the crisis and prolonged the loss of trust in KPMG. Of course, as the people who know, things changed. Towards the end of March 2018, there was a VBS implosion. And that VBS implosion happened at a time when I was in doubt now whether my presence at KPMG was going to make a difference. But when VBS imploded, I immediately said, look, I've been saying all along the steps that the firm took from October 2017 were inadequate. One, review of clients was not as thorough as this should have been because of the mutual respect among partners. So because of the relationship between partners, it becomes very difficult for them to really hold each other to account the way that an independent board would hold executives accountable. So to me, this was a big weakness, and VBS was a result of that. Because it was when reviewing the clients in October, from October 2017 to about March, they failed to pick up VBS as a high-risk firm. To me, when it loaded, the question I was asking, how come? It should have been evident to everyone that VBS was a high risk. The reason it was missed was, of course, disloyalty among partners and the difficulty of partners holding each other accountable. And secondly, I said now it's clear to me that I can no longer rely on the renewal plan that was put in place in October 2017. We had to start from scratch. Again, in doing this, I was strongly supported by the KPMG Global Chairman, Bill Thomas, who said, Wiseman, I'm behind you, whatever you think we need to do as KPMG at this stage to save the firm, I'll give you support. I said, now in the light of the VBS implosion, the erosion of trust has been deepened. And now it's going to be very difficult for us to convince South Africans that the firm is serious about audit quality and also its ethical conduct can be trusted. So we should take a drastic step and really check or verify the commitment of all the partners to integrity and audit quality. And we did that through a review of the files, at least a minimum of 2 files of each partner of work done in the 18 months leading to March 2018. Every work of every partner was checked. And to me, that was very important because at that stage, one of the difficulties that I was having in the firm was the fact that there was a tendency for partners to disbelieve that the deficiencies found by KPMG in the audit of the Gupta companies, they were finding it difficult to accept that was reflective of weaknesses in the whole firm. They felt that it was just shortcomings by one or two partners. But for me, I said with VBS, now this to me indicates that the problems may be deeper, maybe broader than just the two partners that were responsible for the Gupta audits. So we must review commitment of all the partners. That process was very helpful because it dealt with disbelief and denialism. Because on completing that, it was evident that there were a number of deficiencies that we needed to address through increased training and also through mentorship and generally additional layers to ensure quality throughout the firm. So that was the beginning of a change. At that stage, really, because the VBS implosion, to me, necessitated that we take more drastic steps. We used that to question the adequacy, question further the adequacy of the steps taken in 2017 regarding renewal of the firm, the leadership in particular. I said we've reached a stage now where the public is genuinely concerned, is justified in asking the question whether we have the right leadership, and also whether the firm, given the entrenched habits, which in the view of the public need to change at KPMG, is the firm capable of renewing itself, or the deficiencies in the culture are so deep that they can all be changed if we bring somebody from outside. On my side, I was convinced that we need to bring someone from outside. That's the reason I immediately around July called for appointment of a chief executive from outside KPMG, because I had come to the conclusion that we have to the conclusion that we need to reset the culture. So possibly, I have to at this stage just underline the root causes as they were revealed by this audit file reviews, integrity checks, as well as the discussions with a number of stakeholders. Those discussions and reviews, highlighted a number of things. That firstly, complacency and rush at KPMG had really became very dominant in the sense that after many years of success, the leadership of the firm tended to take issue of quality controls and risk management for granted. They were placing too much reliance on the engagement partners, that engagement partners understand the rules and the values, and that they will be faithful in complying with them in terms of how they deal with their clients. But the checks and balances were not as strong as they were at the beginning. But sometimes success breeds complacency. So really, the engagement quality control reviews had become less effective. In other words, there'll be a second partner reviewing a file, but
Prof, sorry, I think you've flashed your mic, so we can't hear you.
Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah, I was just saying that complacency has crept in, and that the audit file control reviews, when it is effective, therefore you will have a second partner, but the review of the file would not be as thorough as it should be. risk management, you had the risk management executive who had also his own clients. And that to me tended to really reduce the focus on really risk management controls. So this complacence to me was a big issue. And also this over focus on revenue and commercial success, and not, you know, in the discussions at executive level or communication with the staff, you would notice that what really was being talked about was winning new clients and also retaining the clients and introducing new products that would assist the clients in solving their business challenges. Not much was being said about how to enhance trust by the public through making sure that our audit quality is of the best, and making sure that the partners have got the necessary level of skepticism and courage to really engage in cases where the chief executives or executives of the companies were not as welcoming to that kind of rigor. So these things were paramount. That's why then in resetting the firm, we said we had to reset the culture and change the leadership. If I may just touch, for instance, on the renewal measures that we introduced. One, the question of leadership of the firm. I came to the realization that we needed a leader of the firm who listens, who is in tune with the environment, and who cares deeply about the impact of the organization on society. That is in addition to being operationally smart. So I felt that the audit firms, KPMG at that stage, the leadership had become too operationally focused, and that this issue of the caring about the impact of the business on society, and also being in tune with society, were the reasons why KPMG failed to appreciate the risk of continued association with the Guptas in the first place, and also accepted that appointment by SARS at that stage. And therefore, we needed really to renew the firm. We had to change the leadership and get from outside a leader who has got these attributes that of conscious leadership. To me, this was very fundamental in resetting culture of a firm. I believe that's the first thing that one must get right, especially when a firm has got a long history of success through focusing primarily on operational efficiency and revenue, and chief executive have tended to be appointed on the basis of that criteria. In the world in which we live today, when there's so much scrutiny by society, and this issue of conscious leadership to me has become very important. So that leader now become the leader champion of resetting the ethics, of serving the public interest above everything else. And we are busy now embedding this culture in KPMG. I don't believe that just teaching ethics, teaching people ethics without anchoring that on a primary purpose that is anchored on making sure that the organization is focused on contributing to the public good. If the definition of the primary purpose is not sound, is not linked to this commitment to contribute, making a positive contribution to public good, you are in danger of teaching ethics but not getting the results. The ethics must be anchored, must be linked, aligned to a well-defined primary purpose that really is aligned to the firm or your organization, not causing harm to society. And then we did, of course, the thing that would be expected in terms of strengthening risk management and separating it from, and making sure the head of risk has no clients. In other words, it's just focus on that. And also audit quality. And more importantly, we came to the conclusion that oversight in a partnership organization tends to be weakened by the loyalty among the partners, and the partners find sometimes difficult to hold each other accountable. To a certain degree, in audit firms, this role is fulfilled by the global board, which is responsible for protecting the brand. But for me, given the unique circumstances of each country, I believe that this audit firms is paramount. They have independent directors on their boards as recommended by King 4. This to me enhances oversight and make sure that the partners are held to greater levels of accountability, which in my view is not possible when the board, the chairman of the board, the chief executive, and head of risk, all of them are partners to a certain degree. Possibly you'll find that even the head of audit, even the head of risk also have got clients of their own. And that to me, it really doesn't ensure strict oversight. So what we've introduced then is that we replace the management, the owner management governance structure of KPMG by introducing a greater number of independent members of the board, non-executive independent members of the board, with requisite expertise that is relevant to an audit firm. We have established a board committee on public interest and ethics that is chaired by Anse Ramalo because of her experience in this area, that is really resetting culture in the firm and focusing not on training clients on ethics, but actually promoting awareness within KPMG and making sure that in KPMG, the ethics are linked to our primary purpose, which is to protect the public, through the audits that we conduct and so on, making sure that the ethical training is linked, is aligned to our primary purpose. And we've also put audit quality under the oversight of an audit committee that is chaired by a professor of accounting from one of our universities here. And again, we're deliberately making sure that things like engagement quality control reviews have much rigor and we hold them to highest levels of accountability. And also when shortcomings have been identified, we are better positioned now to make sure that there are proper follow-ups. So all in all, I believe that in KPMG experience has taught us that are relevant to all leaders, especially professionals and leaders in business in addition to the audit profession. The issue of defining the purpose of your business and making sure that the leadership listens, is in tune with the environment, and also deeply concerned about the impact of the organization on society. This is paramount to me, and we must rethink the question of leadership. If really we've got leaders who are really focused primarily on the increasing the market cap and also driving revenue, and their own incentives rely on that, what happened at KPMG can happen in any other firm. Secondly, we must not take for granted that greed is something that really was dominant in KPMG for reasons that I've explained in terms of the ideas that drive capitalism through Adam Smith and also how revenue growth and so on is worshipped. These forces are pervasive. They influence all of us. So really the challenge is that the lessons must be taken on board by all those in leadership, and really they're relevant in understanding what we're experiencing in our own country in terms of leaders who came out, because they were leaders in the struggle. We thought that they were primarily focused and committed to serving the public interest. But when they have actually in a position of power, and they can use that power either to enrich themselves, to maximize their self-interest, or serve the greater public good, the pressures of consumerism and so on have actually resulted in what we see today. It can happen to any leader. So really, as we think about leadership, We must think about operational excellence, think about effective controls, but think more seriously about these drivers of behaviors and how we build a culture that makes sure that we're anchored on the right purpose that places serving the public interest above all else, making sure that the businesses that we run do not contribute to, do not make negative impacts or cause harm to society. Well, thank you very much. I hope this introductory remarks will be a good foundation for us to have a conversation. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to PAMI, and thank you to the board of IOD, and thank you for all colleagues for joining this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. We'll move to the Q&A session. And I'm just going to have a look at some of the questions that are coming through there. There's quite a few questions that have been posed already. So let's take we'll start from the top, and let's take the first one from Duvasham. She mentioned IRBA was required to be the ombudsman or regulatory body for the accounting and auditing profession at large. Why is it that IRBA only oversees the work of 4,100 members who are chartered accountants instead of the whole accounting and auditing profession? Is this a strategic move to dysfunctionalize the accounting and auditing profession? Prof, I'm not sure if you've got any views on that.
Yes, I'll be very brief. Yeah, the questioner is right. IRBA's mandate is only to regulate the registered auditors that are registered, as members of IRBA, and really it regulates only those. Yeah, but the rest of chartered accountants are regulated by SAICA. There's a call worldwide that there must be a single body that regulates all professional accountants, including those who do audits. And we are on that move, but that has not yet been accomplished in South Africa. I agree. We should have all accountants and auditors should be regulated, but I'm not sure what that. But in addition to that, those who do audits should be subjected to stricter regulation along the lines of IRBA, with IRBA, of course, with greater capacity and ability to act promptly in cases where there's dishonesty on the part of the auditors. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. With IRBA mentioned, I'm just going to ask a question that relates to IRBA as well. From, I've lost it now. Okay, I'll find that again. There's another question from Duvasham. How would you determine whether there is a competence issue or a negligence brief of professional standards in the accounting and auditing profession?
Yeah, well, that's not an easy question to answer. But my understanding of the audit profession, they are motivated really to make sure that they keep up to date with the latest technology developments. And also they are very much involved with their clients in the development of new products, whether they are derivatives or whatever. For instance, I know that audit firms are very much involved with Microsoft, with Apple, in terms of coming with so that when it comes to competence, I'm inclined to say that the audit firms give much more attention to the sharpening of their competencies. Where the issue really things get complicated is that they have tended to value the development of these smart solutions for clients and maintaining these relations with clients. That has become their primary focus. As a result, of course, the majority of chief executives in companies are honest people, ethical people. But if they are too much focused on really maintaining good relations with clients and as the case is now. There's a danger, what in the case of one or two or a few cases of dishonest clients, they will miss the ball because they've maintained the relation for there's no doubt to me that if you take the case of African Bank, for instance, you've got a case of a company that has been performing very well for over a long time, and the chief executive has been behind that success. When he really gets to a point where he misreads the market and the company starts really performing badly, he will keep on saying that, no, the market is wrong. They don't understand. I understand this market better. And you as an auditor, you will be inclined to believe it because of this long association and you valuing the long association. To me, I still believe that the risk is still there. On the question of competencies, yes, there's a risk because there are new technologies developing every day. But I think audit firms tend to give more attention to that than they give to the risk of long association with clients. That may undermine skepticism and professional courage actually to differ with the client in cases where the client is really trying to insist that the firm is doing well when you are clearly, on your side, it's clear that the market has changed and the risk have increased, and the leadership of the firm is refusing to recognize that and take appropriate corrective action.
Thank you, Prof. A question from Unita. What specific questions are asked in the various committees and around the boardroom table to identify the potential repetition of what happened in the past without getting too operational? So you have any examples of what questions could be asked or is currently being asked in the committees in the boardroom table?
Well, the issues around independence, the audit committees, and we at KPMG, we are very meticulous in making sure that our auditors are independent, and also we're very meticulous in making sure that our audit quality controls are really on top. In other words, we make sure that the reviews by second partners are really done with diligence and thoroughness. Those questions can be asked. But the other question that need to be asked is is how if you are an audit committee chair, the question of how the firm deals with the findings by ERBA, inspection findings by ERBA, or how it deals with the findings by its own quality review processes, and to make sure that when deficiencies are identified, especially thematic issues, where it's found that the auditors, the engagement partners always make similar mistakes, therefore they need further training on some aspects. There must be better understanding of those things, of the audit control process within the firm, and also the issues around ethical checks and balances within the firm. And those things we focus on now more than in the past at KPMG, but I believe that clients, especially audit committees, should ask questions along the similar lines. And also, so I would say that that's the way to go.
Thank you, Prof. A question from Claudel. Prof, thank you for your brutal honesty and addressing leadership issues people don't want to deal with. Do you think the denialism you referred to is the reason why KPMG seemed to not be transparent when the scandal first became apparent? What are your thoughts around early transparency in relation to the organization's reputation?
Yeah, no. That's really the heart of the crisis at KPMG, why the crisis got prolonged. It's the delay of KPMG leadership in taking seriously public concerns. When I talk public consent, I'm not just talking about the media. I'm talking about analysts, like economists, like BLSA, questioning the association of KPMG with the Guptas, for instance, questioning KPMG doing the work with SARS at that stage. You know, because of this operationally focused leadership that is really focused on revenue and profits. If you have got a leadership that is too much focused on that, on operational, results, and not sufficiently focused on the impact of the organization on society, and also doesn't really take seriously its own responsibility to society, and does not listen, is not in tune with society. So for me, these are the problems. That leadership was not in tune with society, was not sufficiently sensitized to the need to really care about its impact on society. As a result, they ignored all those, that information that was available in the market until it was KPMG International that said, our brand is being eroded and we cannot sit under these circumstances, we have to intervene. It was not the law. That's why KPMG International advised that the local leadership be removed. So for me, it was a big issue, the time that it took. This issue of leadership that is in tune with the environment and also deeply concerned about impact, I cannot emphasize that enough. And the issue in the case of an audit firm, this taking seriously your duty to serve not only your client, but the public interest. So KPMG took too long, and as a result, it paid the price that it paid. And really, to me, when a firm or leadership is really driven by revenue, and it's finding it difficult to respond to signals, to developments that erode its reputation and brand, you are right in one is right in attributing that to greed, because that's what the public understands, that is the greed that is driving that. But to me, I'm just saying that it's much more complex than that, because society, capitalism, is driven by the teachings of Adam Smith, is driven by the growth and revenue that has become such an important embedded measure of success in a capitalist environment. But of course, those who lead should be people who can rise above the question of those drivers and really be driven by this more noble desire to be recognized by society for caring for society and contributing to a greater public good. Maybe a long answer, but I think possibly you'll get the gist of what I'm saying.
Thank you, Prof. We don't have a lot of time, and there's so many questions. I've marked one or two already that I thought would be nice to answer. Kolile had a question around rotation of lead auditors versus the rotation of audit firms. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we need both. We need both. Rotation of audit engagement partners was a good move. But it does mitigate this risk of long association to a certain degree. But given the fact that the engagement partner, whoever, even when you rotate them, they know how important the client is to the firm. So even the new partner would be saying, whatever I do, this relationship is not going to break under my leadership. And therefore, even when there are signs that information is being withheld from you as an auditor, or there's things that you feel that these expenses should be recognized earlier, and the money, you try a way of understanding the client and moving along, because the client is valued by the firm. So in addition to rotating partners, I think we should also rotate firms. So I'm a great supporter of mandatory audit firm rotation, and that is another safeguard. So you need both. Yes.
Thank you, Prof. Some questions around So specifically around KPMG, Roger talks about, given that VBS implosion seems to be the result of the behavior of individual partners, did you take steps to change and improve the selection criteria for the appointment of partners? And how do you ensure, ethical individuals are actually appointed? And then following that, Claudel asked another question around, in general, what interventions do you advise should be put in place to ensure that leaders within an organization hold each other accountable? And how do you make that part of the leadership culture or the tone of the top?
Yes, yeah, that's a very important question. That's why I talked a lot about the leader of the firm, who is not chosen only on the basis of operational excellence or competence, but also on being a good listener, in tune with the environment, and also caring. Yeah, so I'm repeating myself there. But the selection of partners, because the KPMG, the VBS implosion had a lot to do with a partner, being responsible for a client for too long and not enough reviews by the firm of that client. So they, with the renewed KPMG, we're not going to allow that there is, because, what had happened there, the VBS was a small client. So the partner was allowed possibly to take charge of this, and reviews were not that rigorous, because the reviewer would say, no, this is a small client, accounts for very little, so I'm not going to waste my time on that. But one of the lessons that we have learned is the mistakes at KPMG have actually happened in the non-listed entities, that when we come to big entities, we really apply our controls very rigorously. But when we're dealing with smaller clients, our controls were not as rigorous. So we've corrected that. The selection of partners now, the selection process now, you go through case studies on ethics. You are given a number of questions around ethics to be a partner. And again, as I said, in every communication by the chief executive now, he's not just going to be talking about new wins only, or audits completed, revenues, and so on. There's a lot of communication about ethical conduct. And actually, each time that there is a situation that arises, there's a case study that we developed on VBS. At each time that there's a big implosion anywhere in the country, whether it's African Bank and so on, we immediately use that as a case study to sensitize our auditors. And of course, these questions now are being asked not only by partners of each other, but you have got an independent audit quality committee that is composed of 3 independent non-executive directors. That each time that we ask these difficult questions and make sure that these additional layers of control that we've introduced are being implemented, faithfully. Sorry, I may have missed the second part of the question.
That was from Claudel, and it was, and I think you may have answered, it was more from a general perspective around what's your advice on the interventions that should be put in place to ensure leaders hold each other accountable?
Yeah, I think I've touched on that. Yeah.
Touched on that, yes. Prof, I think maybe we've got a few more minutes left to maybe talk about what further developments would you like to see in the accounting profession that would further enhance governance and compliance?
Yeah, well, the first thing, experience at KPMG and with the public outcry about audit quality and independence of auditors, I think the leadership of the firms should come openly and acknowledge that there's a crisis that needs to be addressed. To really try and rationalize that the public doesn't quite understand the role of auditors, to me, is not the right thing to do. We must acknowledge that. And then as the audit firms, this thing of leadership and really taking seriously what attributes they require of their leaders, and also what support they give now in making sure that the leadership of the firm become conscious leaders along the lines that is described. This to me will go a long way. And of course, you need a stronger and more effective ERBA that acts quickly so that there are consequences, to wrongdoing. But also on my side, I'm a strong advocate of operational separation of audit and advisory. I believe that this is doable, and you can really make sure that the audit part of the business has clearly leadership that is really committed to the values and principles that must underlie an auditor, of independence, of skepticism, and really courage, moral courage. Not really just to delight the clients. You need to protect that environment and of the audit part of the business in that way. Where expertise is required on special products, like for instance, new developments on data analytics or something like that, and you have that expertise in advisory, that could be sourced on an arm's length basis. But the culture of the audit firm, to me, must be better protected as the case is now. And there must be no denialism in trying to justify that this cannot be achieved. It's very important that the public must have confidence that the culture of the primary purpose of the audit business is to protect the public. There must be no doubt about that. And really, it's not about just delighting the client. There must be that separation of operational separation, in my view, that has become very important. I am also a strong believer in bringing in independent non-executive directors with the necessary competencies, not only to be advisors to partners who really run the business, but really to provide effective oversight on ethics, quality, and risk management as we have done at KPMG. And I believe that the audit quality can be better protected and enhanced by actually adopting these methods. And of course, you need a much more rigorous ERBA. Finally, to really ensure improved corporate accountability, yes, there must be increased regulation of other layers, other guardians of corporate governance. We need something similar to Sarbanes-Oxley arrangements in terms of greater accountability for corporate reporting by CEOs, by CFOs, and by audit committees, with proper sharing of liabilities in cases where there have been misleading corporate reporting, including financial reporting to the public. So it cannot, the auditors must carry their share of responsibility, but the other layers of governance must also carry a proportionate share. Possibly those are the things that I believe that would make significant changes and improvements to audit quality, and also in restoring public trust in the audit profession.
Thank you, Prof. And then one last question, I think, just to add on, which Ursula mentioned in there, and there was another question as well earlier around, your internal audit and other assurance providers, and how effective these are, whether audit firms use that. But Ursula mentioned now a lot of focus has been on the external auditors due to their financial focus. However, can the authority of the internal audit function be empowered and enhanced, especially with the role they play in identifying issues from within? So I think we'll end with that question, just on the role of internal audit and the other assurance providers, and we'll end the session there.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you very much for the question. I think significant steps have been taken to strengthen the role of internal auditors. And I believe that more work needs to be done in this area because the businesses, especially, financial institutions, IT companies, have become really big. So to really improve accountability and really deal with be better positioned to deal with possibility of irregular accounting practices or fraudulent practices, you need strong independent internal auditors, and they must be subjected to the same rigorous independence checks as with audit firms. And now you cannot just get somebody from KPMG to be internal auditor at a client of KPMG and without a cooling period and so on. So they must be much more independent, and they must also, but of course, internally, the audit committees should take a much more interest and responsibilities for really empowering internal auditors and make sure that their reporting and also their powers are sufficiently protected by the audit committee. So I would say yes, there's more work that needs to be done in terms of independence and also independence of the internal auditor from the management by actually enhancing supervision and role of the audit committees. Well, thank you very much. These have been very good questions, and I really appreciate the actions. I just hope the lessons that we have learned at KPMG will be found relevant by a number of professionals and directors, and they will get us thinking about where we are in South Africa as we all seek to improve governance and public trust in institutions as well as the companies that we lead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Wiseman, for joining us this morning and sharing your insights and your thoughts with our listeners. I think it was a great session to end the year on. Vusani has put in the chat group a link to exclusive books where we can find your book. And I don't know if there's anywhere else that people can access your book as well.
Yes, thank you very much. The book is available on Take a Lot. You know, I've not bought book through that, but I understand that's the easiest. But all the exclusive bookshop, much as it's not displayed under a new shop, if you go to the shelves, I've been to all the exclusive bookshops, you have copies there available.
Great, thank you so much. I'm sure
as I say, it's a humble contribution, but I just hope colleagues will find some of the ideas, you know, that I share in the book helpful in thinking about their own roles as professionals and business leaders.
Thank you so much. I can see through in the chat room, everyone saying thank you very much, that it was a great session, and everyone's very grateful for you to sharing your views and your experience, Prof. Wiseman. So thank you very much for joining us and giving us your time. To all our members and attendees this morning, thank you so much for supporting our Boardroom Bites at 9 this year. It is our last session for the year. I wish everyone a very happy Christmas and wonderful New Year. I hope everyone gets some rest this festive season, and we will start our Boardroom Bites again next year. I think it will be most likely from the first week of Feb. So please do look out for new dates coming in the new year. Once again, everyone, we'll see you again. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.